All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Deepak, and I am the host of Pune chapter for Culture First Community. The purpose of the community is to make the workplace better. And with the current economic situation, I thought it was a good idea to discuss whether this macroeconomic situation and the layoffs and everything, and even recently Google cutting their snacks and everything, is that going to impact how people interact with each other, even their friends inside the workplace? So, welcome all. So, we'll go round robin, and I request you to introduce yourselves. We'll start with Akansha first.
Hi, I'm Akanksha. I have close to 20 years of experience in the industry. I've been working in the software domain mostly. Right now, I'm working for a startup based out of Delhi, and it's into adtech pharma. Prior to that, I was working for Paytm. It's a fintech. So that's about me.
Soumya.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Soumya. So currently I'm working as a software engineer at Red Hat. Apart from that, yes, I'm an educator as well. I like to teach coding, specifically app development. So I do that as well. And yes, I have a small kind of, we say, like follower family of like 95,000 on LinkedIn and 57,000 on Twitter. So I kind of create tech content on all these platforms. I post about my learnings, like whatever I do, I share with my audience. So yes, that's is my intro about.
Ravinder.
Hey, hi, good evening, everyone. Myself, Ravinder Pal Singh. I have total 18 and a half years of experience in IT, primarily working in telecom throughout my career. I currently am associated with Amdocs, and I'm working as a director of software engineering. Very passionate about learning uh, and mentoring people. So, as part of my hobby, I mentor a lot of college students from campus to corporate programs, so that they are enabled and they can get adjusted to corporate life.
Excellent. Captain Preetham.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Captain Preetham Madhuka, and after 2 years of sailing on ships, I wanted to do something to build will strength in people, which I thought was kind of on the decline across industries. And that's when I started my organization called Skills Beyond Education in 2016-17. And it's been about 6-7 years. We were primarily an offline kind of organization where we would do a lot of programs for adolescents and adults to build will strength through many programs. And in recent times, we are doing a lot of online programs for people to build will strength. I'm also an author of a book called Three Culprits: Laziness, Fear, and Doubt. It's on Amazon. And so this is to bring my message across of what we're doing. And I thought after the sailing with so many different nationalities, visiting so many countries, I was very excited when this topic of culture came in, and how important it is, especially when we would, whether it was survival or any such thing. And I'm looking forward to all these amazing panelists to hear from them, learn from them, hopefully share some insights as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Captain. All right, so we know the premise, right? So I'll start with it. I'm pretty sure you all would remember there was this tricky riddle from our childhood. There are four birds sitting on a tree branch, and a hunter comes and fires at one of them. How many are left? So our kindergarten mind would think that, okay, 4 minus 1, 3 are left. But instead of it being a simple subtraction problem, it used to be a tricky threat migration problem, right? So do you think layoffs, the widespread layoffs, regardless of whether they are startups or big tech, they are also causing some kind of threat triggered migration problem? But for a bird, uh, flying from one branch and sitting on another is very easy, right? It's their day-to-day job. But changing jobs is very tough. So that puts employees into probably what I think a fight or flight response mode, right? A battle of survival. So I'll like to know from all of you, what do you think about this phenomenon? We'll start again with Akansha.
I think it creates a panic for sure in when this layoff situations happen, and moreover when we are not very sure of what could be the probable reason of it happening. Right? It right now it doesn't seem like we can pinpoint on any one particular reason that why these layoffs are happening. Is it economy? Is it performance? Is it longevity? Or is it compensation? So when we are not able to put the finger on it, then obviously it creates a big panic for all of us. So what you're saying is right, and I think it does happen. That if with a few layoffs, you would see a lot of migration happen in the company. It has, at least the atmosphere becomes really negative, and it's tough to keep the people motivated in that time. So everyone is on a lookout. So if the market is open for people who are there in the market after the layoff, the people who are already employed are also looking out, because the longevity in the company is also at risk. I mean, no one wants to be laid off. So it's like, who's going to win the race? I leave or they'll ask me to leave. That's what I think.
Soumya, what do you think?
Yes, I agree to what Akanksha said. I mean, when there are such newses, when organizations, the big techs, MNCs, and even so many startups, when we see such news, obviously there is a kind of negativity, a kind of, not so good environment in the entire tech industry, I would say. I mean, when we hear XYZ company firing or doing layoff for some reason, so obviously the impact is on everyone. Like everyone who is associated with tech industry will somewhere be affected by the news only. So I feel, yes, the example that you gave of the bird is indeed somewhere true. Not exactly, because obviously for birds it's very easy to fly from one tree to another because of the sound. But for people who are working in an organization, the change is not so easy, but somewhere the negative impact is indeed there.
Okay, moving to Ravinder. Ravinder, what do you think?
I was, just thinking about this subject today morning, and in my career, I have seen three such phases till now. This is the third phase which has started. Uh, we have seen the Great Recession that happened, then we had a boom, and then it happened. While we talk about, a layoff today, I would take a step back to 2020 when Great Resignation campaign started. If you look at that, there is a change in parity. If you compare people with their salary brackets, their what you call as their remunerations, it has changed a lot. The market has opened up. There was a boom, which was due to digitization, which was enforced on organizations. So there was ample amount of work around, and there was scarcity of talent. So there was a boom. Now stabilization has to happen. And what I see is, even the big companies with big pockets, they are using this opportunity to, revamp their strategy. Because if you look into what is getting really impacted is the dream projects, or something that we think of strategy for tomorrow, and it's not happening. So definitely, when you see, such news, you get that panic. But I see this as an opportunity to remember that corporate, this is the hard truth. Your association with the organization, your longevity, your skills have to be polished all the time. If you're working on them, you bring in value to the team that you're working for, definitely you will be safe. But again, I agree with both speakers that that always is at the back of your head, that I must perform. That performance pressure suddenly triggers in, and it has an impact. But if you say this as a positive side of it, is for the industry, it is actually giving a lot of stabilization to what that has happened in the last 2 years.
Thank you, Ravinder. Preetham?
Yeah. So, I mean, your bird analogy reminded me another story where if like a tiger was chasing 2, 3 of us, we just, somebody asked like, how fast should you run? You just have to run faster than the slowest person, right? And in a way, that's what would happen. Like the initial triggers would bring in this primal survival instincts, that I just need to run faster than the slowest person or the weakest link in the company. And that's not healthy, because you're just thinking in a survival mindset. And once that mindset kicks in, then you can't be innovative there, right?
Mhm.
And because you're not being creative, it's like your edge on creativity is like a blocked. And also, just like Ravindraji was mentioning about how the industry, what I have observed also, is very cyclical. And if we can survive that phase of cyclical by polishing our skills, I think that can be a great thing while we wait out, especially if you're on the other side of losing a job, right? Then what can you do? And if you're on this side, you haven't lost the job, you could preserve it at least for now, then what should you do? And where does culture fit in?
Mhm. So one thing which Akanksha said about, we cannot put a finger on when the layoffs happen. We cannot put a finger whether they are due to performance uh, or their tenure in the company, or as Ravinder said, maybe a dream project. The forward-looking things that a company invests in, they stop putting money in that R&D and stuff, and those are the things that are getting shelled, and companies are not investing there. But from a engineer's perspective, most people don't know about this, right? The initial reaction of an engineer, and Soumya can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the layoffs are due to performance, and if I perform well, I am better off than a person who will probably not perform well. The definition of what the bell curve is. A very radical idea. If I don't know if you all have seen Titanic, when the, not a great example, but when the Titanic was sinking and they had a limited number of dinghies to save people, and then they decided that they'll save women and children first. At least there was method to the ensuing chaos there. So do you think that if when companies lay off people, they should probably disclose the reason for laying off straight away, instead of keeping everyone guessing that why were so many people let go?
Can you go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Soumya.
Okay, so in this case, I mean, I strongly feel that the reason, I mean, I had these conversation obviously with many of my friends. We also were discussing these things. So one of the reasons, actually internally as well, if you look into the organization Google, so they also asked all the manager, all the leadership team to prepare a list that is a poor performance kind of list in their team. If they feel that okay, XYZ person is not up to the mark, then they asked, I mean, from all the leadership team to make a list in that way. But externally they don't announce the reason that okay, we are laying off people who are not performing well or any such thing. Because see, if let's say someone got laid off and the organization announced that okay, we are laying off because the maybe the software engineers are not performing well, so it will be very difficult for that person, for that individual to get next job, right? Because their organization said that they laid off those people who were not performing well, and obviously that will be in the news, and if that person will apply for another job, so that will be somewhere kind of that will affect his or her career. So I think the reason why companies are not specifically mentioning that okay, we are laying off based on this criteria, based on performance or any such thing, just because maybe they also care for their employee and they don't want to kind of ruin their career. So yeah.
Ravinder, what do you think?
Actually, you know what? I will be a bit bold over here. I'll bring you to this first cycle of it. When you are rejected in an interview, you never get an explanation from the companies. It is the silence, right? So the route is defined and defined like that. Organizations generally are hesitant to talk about the failures. and nobody is ready daring to talk about it. That's why we failed. So, like Soumya said, it is also a perspective. While we are closing our association with a lot of people, we don't want to dent their career. So rather pointing the full, failure toward individuals, it is kept as a silence, and the company just close the doors. But yes, this is how the industry has been. Like I said, my career, I have seen this. When you are not hired, you never get this answer why. I still remember when I was in college, I was placed in a company. Our joining got late by 6-8 months. Only the email used to come. We are just letting you know you will be joining in September, December, January. Why? No reasons. So probably I think that is the communication has been throughout limited, and not talking about everything.
I think, companies are just a reflection of us. It's like a bigger picture because it's in the end run by people itself. That the moment there is a threat to revenue, threat to the profits, just like we will tighten our purse strings of spending, the companies also wants to see where they can cut things that are less needed, some departments which they can make do without, some projects, let's not burn money there. So whether even if you are a high performer there, like you just got caught in the wrong place, the wrong time, or right place or wrong time, and you end up losing. It may not be performance also. Sometimes it may be sheer survival of the company to see, hey, we can't bleed anymore, or we can't take this anymore. Those factors also could be one of the reasons. Yeah.
Akansha?
My only question which comes up for me most of the times when this kind of situation happens, and it's like probably the second or the third time it is happening, is are the companies actually doing the due diligence in every way they can save up the revenue, and is it really the last resort left to lay off the employees, or it's the first thing they do? I mean, being the devil, I would say that they are doing their due diligence, and then it's the last, probably the only way possible. Like I remember when I was working in one of my companies, when we had this down in 2008 or something, right? We had a salary cut, like across board. There was a 10% salary cut for every employee. So it was tough to take, but at that point of time, I think probably it helped in some time before we went across and started to rebuild the economy again. But right now it feels like, at least to me, it feels like we're taking the way out, probably, which is really at a large scale. It's like people are finding it a way to clean up and just ride the wave, so that they can also they'll not be judged out of the context, since everyone is doing it, so they don't have to give much reasons for it. That's what comes up for me. I mean, that's one of the most negative thoughts which comes up for me for a company, though I wouldn't want that to be true. But yeah, that's what at times I feel so.
So what I understand from your perspectives is that if companies were a person, in last 2-3 years around COVID, that was the Diwali period where they ate a lot of mithais and everything, and now they are going to gym, right?
Right. So they're like, okay, now we need to shed the weight really quickly. So the most strict diet is what we should do and follow.
Right. All right. So we have talked about the external. Yes, Soumya.
Yeah, so I wanted to add one pointer quickly to what Captain Preetham said. Actually, this is a kind of a real example. My friend who was working as a software engineer in Amazon. So what happened? I know that he's a good software engineer. I mean, we were working in same project in GSOC as well, one of the Red Hat's project only. But because obviously the whole team was shut because it was not able to generate revenue. So sometime, as Captain Preetham said, it's not about you, it's about maybe the team, they don't have the budget, they are not able to make profit, and that's why they do have to take such decisions, right? The leadership team, everyone who was associated with that team, that was a kind of new team. They were experimenting some product during COVID only. They came up with some idea, but it was not able to generate revenue for Amazon, for the company, so they decided to kind of shut that, right? So kind of, yes, sometimes it's about the budget, it's about team, it's not about your performance at all. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I was saying that we had the uh, outside perspective so far in the discussion. Now going to the inside out perspective, when there are people in the team, their interpersonal relations with each other, considering everything that's happening outside and inside, the performance evaluation methods have also become very strict now. Right? See, all the big leaders, Sundar Pichai and Elon Musk, and all of these people are very vocal about how they only want high performers in their organizations. Right? Stat padders and everyone probably, apparently, are not welcome in the organizations now. So, considering that, how does it play into, let's say, an intern comes to my team, I'm a senior engineer, I'm whatever my KPIs are, my goals are for the quarter or for the year, to write this many lines of code or do that many commits or write these many features and stuff like that. Uh, in a perfect world, I would have, in spite of my work, mentored and helped the intern come up to speed and be a good software engineer. But since I am so nervous now, with all the EMIs and my salary and everything going around in the corporate, are people willing to uh, go beyond their day-to-day roles and their goals, which are stricter than before, to extend help to the people in the organization that need help? We'll start with Ravinder this time.
See, first of all, collaboration and co-creation are the skills for today and future. Right? We have been talking about the futuristic skills. These are two skills that we need forever. Be it a tough patch like today and maybe sunny, hopefully sunny days after a few months, you would need them. And I think these testing times are test of your character also. You know, everybody can be a disciplined driver when you have a camera installed. But you following your ethics when then nobody is watching is very important. So I personally feel, you don't perform because the performance parameters have changed. I should change my personality. It should not, as a leader, you should never do that. So it should not change as an individual. Number two is, I'll give you an example of cricket. Right? You talked about, performance criteria have changed. I'm 1980s born, and when I compare cricketers versus athletes from today, like Virat Kohli is an athlete today, right? There is a change in standard of fitness that has come into picture.
Right.
Definitely, the evaluation criteria has changed. There's a lot of competition for every, playing 11 player in this team. So that is because the survival of fittest and the best will play. Now, during the rainy season, like any other game, like any other profession, companies will want to have the best available talent, right? Because there is a reason for these cuts. So you want your best playing 11 to play in this rough patch. So definitely, the measuring stick will be strict, and you will have to follow it. You have to show why you are worth this job. That is number one. Number two, these are the times where leaders are born. We talk about innovation. I personally believe, as a design thinker, innovation happens in crisis. And this is where a rare leader is born who who sails the ship through crisis. So I personally feel interpersonal skills, your collaboration, co-creation will actually continue and should continue in such situations, because that is going to help us as an organization to grow and come out of this rough patch.
Thank you, Ravinder. Preetham? Preetham, you are on mute.
The example you shared about mentoring, I thought that was a very good one. Like from my own experiences also in some context, it's like if you could, if the persons, and not just you, I'm saying if people could look at the mentoring and helping out somebody, actually to better that individual who in turn is making sure that you fulfill your KPI or maybe exceed it. Right? If the mentoring could happen, like we would have cadets and officers who would come, right? Obviously they're going to take our place someday, and but every time we had mentored them, get them to exceptionally good levels, we found that our life became easy, right? Because they were doing most of our work, because they were trained. And it looked good for our seniors that, hey, we are doing a ton of work, because now I had so much more bandwidth to give quality inputs to my boss and my seniors and my reports, because I'm not sitting and doing the drudgery of things what I would have done otherwise. Right? And that youngster also is like, wow, he's looking up to me and he's saying, hey, I learned so much things from you. He becomes a great network, not in the short horizon of next 1-2 years. Even after 5-10 years, he would call me and he'll say, hey, what you taught me and some place today. Right? And that's a massive, that doesn't come in networks where we just meet over coffee. That's a different kind of bond connection that is built, right? Which is one-to-one human level connection, right?
Right.
And that's a powerful network if you're playing the long game, right? Even if you leave this company and you're somewhere else, he's somewhere else, he's a massive network for you to up the game. He'll probably tell you, hey, there's an opening here, boss, you should come here.
Right. Akanksha?
I have on that front, I would say, Deepak, that there are times when how much can you perform? When we say we are a high performer, there's only so much you can work in a day, right? You go through so many cycles of anxiety, pain, what's going to happen tomorrow, and at that point of time, instead of sitting and really trying to control the uncontrollable, if you'd rather spend that time in mentoring someone, right, it'll help you and it'll also help the other person. So even if you're a high performing resource, you can't always be a high performing resource, right? You do have a low, you do go through all those cycles. So when you focus, and that's what I think, that when you focus on bringing up you polish your skills and you polish the other person also. So learning is not like only when you're mentoring someone, the other person is the only person who's learning. You're also learning, right? And secondly, I think that it's, even if you're an individual contributor, you're never working in a silo, right? All the goals are not just yours. There are goals of the team as well. So even if you might shine, but if as a collective, the team is not performing, then there's no, the end goal would be the same, right?
Right.
So at that point of time, if you focus on also bringing up the other person, maybe that might increase the scope of performance of the team as well. So yes, it's very tough to do it. I wouldn't say that it's a very easy way to walk when you are so stressed about, I need to work, I need to finish my work, I need to do this. But at the same point of time, if you shift the focus a little bit from self and be more inclusive about the others and give them time, maybe it might help you write that situation in a better way.
Soumya?
Yes, I almost agree to what all the panelists said. Like if when everything is green, you are kind of going above and beyond your work. You are mentoring others. You are doing things which are not mentioned in your JD. But when things are not so green, when let's say people are not checking, as you said, like now is the time when many of the organizations have created a list of rules and regulations. You have to mention that, okay, these are the tasks I'm working on and all those things. So in these scenario, you ask that will things will be same? Will colleagues help each other in the same way? So I think should do. I mean, the team is there. If you will help others, then others will also help you, right? So I think it should not change if the company's maybe situation is not good, if the budget is less or any such thing. But you as a human being, like you should make sure that your connections with other people, with other folks in your team are good. I mean, maybe on some other day you will be in any other company, but like IT industry is not so big. I mean, it's so small. You might again meet the same person in the same team anywhere, right? So I think situation doesn't matter. One should take care of that. He or she is behaving in right way with everyone. She is helping his or her teammates, guiding interns. One should keep his or behavior in the same way. I don't think situation should control too much how you behave. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you all is that uh, you all suggest whoever is watching this video on YouTube or wherever, they should not change. They should keep the empathy and collaboration alive, because this is a temporary phase, as Ravinder said, and we are going to make connections that would outlast the current company, as Preetham said. All and while I was listening to Soumya's answer, one thing that came to my mind is we also talked about how a lot of companies shut down their R&D projects, and like Amazon said, they'll not invest in AI or something, and then Google said they'll not invest in metaverse. Not Microsoft said they'll not invest in metaverse, and all of those things, right? So if this becomes very rampant and common, would you think? Do you think that people would hesitate to get themselves, smart people I'm talking about, right? The A players of a company will hesitate to uh, get themselves assigned to these R&D forward-looking projects, and hence kill all the progress that a company can make in future technologies.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely spot on. I think it is going to affect. People will hold back, in my view. I think they will not, other than, I'm not saying everybody, a big chunk would hold back because they would not want to take that gamble, where there is that risk. And but the ones who are going to, that is the instinct. You're going to do that instinctively. I'm not saying that is the correct thing. That's what they would do. And but the people who are going to shine after the slump is out and we start rising the curve is the ones who actually went into that R&D, right? Who went against the curve and who took that bold step, and they are the ones who will shine in the next growth phase, and the boom phase.
Right.
That's what it could be. But instinctively, like rats and in the Maslow theory, like we will go for that survival instinct. That's a natural. But the evolutionary instinct is to innovate and to change.
Kancha?
I think it's about your risk-taking appetite, right? I mean, people do that all the time as well. That what is it that you would like, even joining a startup or starting your own venture, that goes through all of that. How much can you risk it is what, and it's very individualistic. I don't think it could be generally, but yeah, one thing is I would want to do, if I have a lot of responsibilities, if there's a lot of things which are riding on my working and everything, then it'll impact. But innovation is not just the big companies. I think, Deepak, innovation could happen anywhere.
Right.
Like maybe I wouldn't want to risk it for a bigger company who has the control to stop that project, even if I am okay with it. And if I'm a risk-taking person, I can start or venture out on my own and, find ways to do it. So I think it's very individualistic rather than, we can say that people would, and specifically, as you said, smart people, right? So it'll be based on what that person thinks is his view or her view of taking that risk.
Okay. Soumya? Soumya, you are on mute.
Okay, sorry. So I agree to what Kangsha and Captain Preetham said. I mean, indeed, second. Yeah. So, we were discussing about, can you reiterate the topic here?
The topic is think about companies as a Jenga tower,
Right,
and
I
each
remember.
block.
Like in R&Ds, many of the teams are kind of shutting down, so the smart folks will not wish to switch in those teams, right? Yes, I
Yeah.
got the contest. Yes. So in like switching the windows, I switched the mine as well. Like I was listening to all your pointers. So yes, as Captain Preetham said and Kanksha also said, in these scenarios, somewhere yes, smart people will indeed resist themselves to go into such teams. Let's say if XYZ company said that we are not going to invest in artificial intelligence, and if there are teams who are completely focusing into AI, then obviously the huge number of people actually will not wish to join that team. Let's say if that company somehow is willing to hire new folks as well, so people will even hesitate to give interviews for that company. And if there is some, let's say, internally as well, some openings are there or something like that, so indeed that will be there, that people will not wish to join that team, which where chances are that the team might be shut down, or the organization can say bye to that particular team. So I feel yes, chances are high that many folks will resist themselves until unless, let's say, if someone feel that AI is something they truly love, or they want to experience that adventure. They don't care of what will happen. And again, it can be a good decision for their career if, let's say, everything goes good, everything is in their favor. So it can be a bold decision that those folks will make. So yeah.
Yeah. Ravinder?
See, I would take a step back and understand if I'm an individual, okay. Now today we all know that innovation for futuristic thing is not something any company is going to invest unless they have some pipeline for it or they have a strategy for it. So that means the company will only invest sure shot where they have future, or where they are very convinced that this is what we want to do for next 5 years. So for sure, this is a long term, not for a month or so, because something that they don't want, it's already being wrapped up. Second, as an individual, if I'm chosen for this project, that means you see, R&D is always an investment. ROI may or may not happen. So companies are aware, I'm doing an experiment, one of them will work, right? So you want your best guy. So I take that as an opportunity that if I'm picked in something that company investing, and I will lead it or be part of it, I'm going to make a futuristic product for the company, or I company has a trust in me, so I would work on it. This is number one. Number two, I'm a strong believer. Innovation happens in crisis only. I was just watching Rocket by last weekend, and when India was getting plutonium and uranium from US, we were very careless about using it. We were using it for only nuclear energy, but never used it for nuclear bomb. But later on, when the whole thing changed, we started to use the waste to create uranium from ourselves, and we made our nuclear bomb from there. So similarly, right now, whatever innovation you have seen in the last couple of years, which did not materialize, was more from the boom that has happened in the last couple of years. Now, when the world is taking a consensus again that what we should focus on, because a lot of things that we predicted 2 years back will be flying, they are not flying, right? People are still doubting it, whether I should invest or not, or whether will I get ROI or not. So that means we really have to rethink about the future investment and R&D. So a lot of R&D now will not be a luxury R&D. It will be a limited one where calculated risk will be taken by the companies. And if, as an individual, like Soumya said, if you are really crazy about AI and your company is doing a work in AI, you should go for it, because it will be an investment, very calculated investment, and definitely it will have major chances of a success for you.
Okay, moving on. So last year I was preparing a talk on Peter's principle. I'm not sure whether you know or not. So it's a career stagnation kind of phenomenon. And then I stumbled upon this concept called tournament theory. So what tournament theory states is that between two people in a team, the amount of the reward does not matter. Let's say there is a performer who is at number one and there is a performer who is at number two. The amount of the reward that a company gives to number one person, their star player, does not matter. The difference between one and two matters. And that is what all the compensation designers of all the companies have always in mind. There should be a substantial difference between your top performer and the second top. Even if it is, let's say, the top performer if we could put a number around it, let's say, it's very difficult to put someone's performance in numbers, but let's say, for the sake of simplicity, he put 100% of effort. Whether that resulted into success or not, that's a separate thing. And the other one put 99.5% of effort. So even though there is a very small difference between their efforts, but the reward for being the number one or on whatever the criteria that company has set, whatever the performance evaluation methods that company has set, and each company has their own context and ways, the difference still is very high between 1 and 2, and then so on and so forth between 3 and 4 and 1 and 5. It becomes a mountain between 1 and 5. So does this impact how people now talk to each other, how people collaborate, innovate, work with each other? Have you this question is specifically for Ravinder and Akansha, based on your leadership. Are you seeing any feedback from your teams where people are now just looking after being that number one person, especially the top three? Right? There is always a race between top 4 or 5.
Yes, I think that race is there. You can't deny that. So, and at times when they realize that they are not the number one, and then when that realization kicks in, you have to answer that question. Why not me? And the disparity, it's not, because the disparity between 1 and 2 generally in every organization is very high, as you said. And it's the concept which is in play, and I see it in reality as well. So when we are asked to maintain the bell curve or something like that, that's what we are, basically doing. But even in the top performers, the difference is there. So everyone wants to be at the top. I think people realize it and they strive for that.
Right.
And it's not wrong or right, I wouldn't say that, but it's a very human instinct to be there at that position, because it matters for an individual, specifically when the difference is very less. And if you have to give an answer and quantify why not me, then you have to make sure that you have ample of data points to make sure that that is why not you. So it is in play.
Right.
And
Soumya?
I
Yeah, go ahead.
what Akanksha said was, I will give you an example of sports, right? Leander Pace, when he was growing up, before his Wimbledon final, junior Wimbledon final, his coach told him, go and buy a book of all the Wimbledon winners. He bought it from the market. And he told him, get me a book of all the runner-ups from Wimbledon. He said, there's nothing like that. So that comes into play in every field. You only value your toppers. And that is motivation, I feel, anybody who has excelled in their career, be it any part of life and any work, you want to be the top performer. That is a motivation. Now that motivation, the anchor is always the pay packages, the benefits you get. Now, how to make sure that there is no bias when you pick your 1 and 2? That is where the leadership has to be very, very calculated, and they have to have a right measuring yard. You should be measuring, and like Akanksha said, you always need to have justification. Because the moment you don't have data points to talk for the number two is out.
Yeah.
Because they don't buy it, why I'm number two. So this is also good for the boss also, because you always have to have a reason yourself that why X is one and why Y is two, because there has to be a reason for it. So it exists, and it exists for a reason.
Yes, I mean, not only in tech industry, I think across every domain, this thing is there. From our school days as well, we have seen these things. Those who get rank one are given so many stuff, a scholarship, so many perks by the school and university as well. Those who are at the top are given so much of recognition, and same happens in our tech industry as well, in organization as well. So I guess yes, it's fair enough. You should reward those who work hard or who put themselves at number one. Criteria and everything, obviously, as Ravinder said, like organizations, the leadership team has to be very, very careful about this thing. Like, what should they reward to, and what should be the criteria, all those things. So I guess it's fair enough, and it's in all sphere of our life. So yeah.
Pritam?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's also very much there in our entire space of democracy, where you can get you can win by one vote, and it does not matter how many votes you got, right?
Yeah.
First past the post. It's been there at the highest levels. So that is the same system. And as Ravinder was saying, that what matters is it is transparent. Is the votes counted properly? Is it genuinely one you won it by superb? Then you're the winner. What can we do? Or is it some hera fairy type? Then hey, that's not good, right? So people respect. If you won, you won, right? If we can be transparent and keep those measuring things, metrics visible, and build that trust, I think people are a little more considerate. You don't lose your next asset from your company leaving for someone else, somewhere else, and that happens everywhere. And I think understanding that it's a human need, that we'd like to gamble somewhere, in the sense like, if I know I have a chance of winning that post, winning that chance, there is even a minute chance, then there is that desire to stick on, right? Unless you say that's impossible, whatever you do, you're not getting number one, then you'll say, no, heck it, then I'm going from here. So I guess that is the play that is being done. And as long as people are aware what they're getting into, then that's good or bad, whatever.
So what I'm hearing from you all is that tournament theory is existent and functioning, and it's a good thing that it rewards the person who is willing to compete and put an extra effort, right? So I have just a second, Akansha. I have a very small unrelated question. So do you think we have done ourselves a disservice by probably changing the evaluation criteria of how kids exams are conducted nowadays with grades and everything? So in my time there were numbers, right? So 91.1, if I got 91.1, the person who got 91.2 was the topper. I was not. But now they are just grades and nobody is topper. Why aren't we preparing kids for the what's coming?
Like to comment on that one. And that's why I raised the hand. That, I mean, it's not that what we're doing is right. It's not right. It actually, just what we're trying to do is run one person after the other. I mean, like, making one person the aim and then making the other one compete against that person. Okay. So it's not cohesiveness. It's the presence of that theory is there, but it's not good or bad. I wouldn't say, but it's not, we need to reevaluate the way we are applying that theory in the real life. And as you said about grading, eventually the grades are till 5th, probably till 8th. But if after that, when you see the newspaper or the media full with everything, this person scored 100%, it has not gone out, right? We are still in awe of the person who gets the maximum marks. We are still grading in our 10th and 11th and 12th grades. Even during IITs or any competitive exams, don't do that. It's always like that. So what we are doing is we are just giving the kids more time to get into the rat race, not wanting them to get into the rat race at the age of 3 or 4, but get into the rat race at the age of 10, where they're probably more mature and they're able to understand the pressure of it. That's the only thing we're doing. We're just delaying that. Because in overall perspective, the culture of education, the competition, the way the industry and everywhere, it's the same. Because you have to have some criteria. The reason probably the grades have gone out is we want to focus more on the soft skills and the holistic development also, so that is also becomes a criteria for a child. But ultimately it is the marks which matter. So when, like, my son is in 12th now and my daughter is in 8th, so gradually I've seen them get into the same zone, right? They say it doesn't matter, the marks doesn't matter. Yes, it doesn't matter, but it matters in a way also.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay. Any other final thoughts on this topic before we move on?
I mean, just to add a little bit to Akansha's, words, was especially in school exams, we are bound by that one day's effort, right? And for the rest of your life, you're going to carry that. And corporate, ideally, it should not be some one particular day. You're like assessed through the year, probably few years before you reach your goal. So it's like a weighted average rather than a one day scoring. That kind of distinguishes somewhere these two yardsticks, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to my final question. So, I'm pretty sure you all have been hearing and probably working, and there have been certifications, even the organizations about Agile, right? So, Agile, in essence, is a way of doing things where you learn by doing things, right? When you learn by doing, you make mistakes. So, that's the empirical nature of Agile. So, do you think with the current scenario, uh, as the organizations become risk averse, they are going to allow their teams to make mistakes while doing that what do we call the soft padding that teams had earlier? Is it going to be there now? Let's start with Preetham this time.
Yeah. So I think for smaller organization, I'm just, let's say less than 100 people kind of, they would be more risk affinity, you could say, because they want to grow, they're hungry, they want to try some things. But the more mature big names would be more risk averse. And because they have more reporting structures, more things to answer, while here in a smaller thing, you are accessible to the CEO, you're accessible, you can take a call, you know what, there's an opportunity here, you think, yes, let's meet and talk, and let's
I think we lost Preetham.
constantly evolving there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, Ravinder, what do you think?
I think this soft padding again will not exist, because if you look at the business also, it's the business that drives the whole world, right? The business is it in a very anxious state, with the Russia-Ukraine war going on and so many things around. Pandemic is still on, it's still around. Companies are, and this 5G typically cloud, IoT, these are things that metaverse, they have promises and opportunities, but we don't see any, very clear, results that, okay, this, if I do X, I'm going to save, say, 100% of what I'm spending today. So companies also are very limited when they're spending. And when you're spending little, you always want the more quality because you don't have that risk capabilities. So definitely, these SIs and other companies, the vendors, will have this pressure of performing first time right.
Hmm.
You don't have opportunity because competition is there. Competition is there around from different vendors, so you have to give your best. And that is why, now we link it back to what Mr. Sundar Pichai and others, Elon Musk is saying, that you need to raise the standard. My performance standards have to be increased because the demand from business is first time right. I cannot make mistakes because I want to spend only $10 and that's it. I don't want to spend more on re-engineering of the products. So that definitely will not be there. Again, but for areas like R&D and where we know it is more of an experimentation, this will continue as it is.
Soumya?
Right, right. I agree. Like opportunity to learn by making mistakes obviously will be reduced when the companies are willing, when companies are asking the employees that okay, we want to get these things done in this much time, and like we are spending this much amount, and you have to do everything in this much time. Then obviously, for an employee, it will be very difficult to master things by making mistakes. I mean, obviously, when they are asking, your employer is asking you to do things correctly in the first attempt, then yes, employer has to somewhere follow it. So indeed, agree.
Akansha?
I agree with what everyone is saying, but isn't it human to make mistakes? I mean, if we are, the only thing we are saying is that we take away the opportunity. I mean, like, yes, everyone has their neck in the game 100%. We can't be disengaged at work. But do you think anyone would perform under the pressure of fear? Right? That what is going to happen? Do you think that's going to be an optimum way forward? Or it will make us so scared that we are always on our toes, and won't it make we be making more mistakes like that? So the soft padding might be reduced in a way that but creating a constant pressure would not help, right? It's not like I mean, even in agile, as you said, that we have, and we retrospect and we improve. Yes, we can do that. We can have shorter cycles, we can have crisper goals, we can. So if everyone is engaged and completely having contributing 100% or even 85% or 90%, then the chances of error would reduce. But completely doing away with the soft padding or the scope of making mistakes is not really somewhere where the organizations can sustain for a long time. So it might be what they want to do, but I think we need to reassess when we create pressures on the team to do it right the first time, because it might just be a recipe for disaster. That's what I feel.
Right. That's a wonderful point. All right, I think we are at the top of our... Sharad, do you have a question for the panelists? All right, hearing none, I think I would like to thank all of you for joining me today. It was a wonderful discussion. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I look forward to probably meet you again. Some of you face to face, and some of you virtually. Thank you all. I'll stop the recording now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deepak. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.